When you look at stickers that go on bike frames, no, this is not about stickers, but the actual branding of these bike shops. Over the years, some have come and go, and a good portion of these bad boys used to be truck dealers. If they're still even around? Yeah, that's a good question. Where are they today? And what has Trek done to the market as we speak? After this.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with a guy. This is As the Wheel Turns, So Do Days of Our Rides series. I will be covering topics of the industry as well as consumer views with my 30 years experience.
If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. Welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycles. This is As the Wheel Turns, So Do the Days of Our Rides. Yes, this is redo from last week's live train wreck. Yeah, I don't have to tell you, if you saw it, sound was horrible, out was sideways, which is industry as well, into bad sound, and anyway, and I have more, and there's more, and there's more, always there's more, but I have some additional insights to what we're talking about. Is this it for Trek? This is it for Trek dealers, that independent. I would pretty much bet to dollar to donuts that they are really screaming mad rage red right now. And not Trek red, rage red. Let's go over a few of these. Whoa, if you thought 2023 was bad, 2024 could be equally, if not worse. Yeah, I'm not a very big fan of doom and gloom and shock value. For the most part, most of my content is just fixing stuff. For me, this is kind of something that if you don't talk about it, it's still going to happen and you still probably need to talk about it. Well, there's a few things that Trek has affected the market, well, and Specialized and a couple other brands too over the last 5 to 10 years. And probably not in a very positive way. If you're an independent bike dealer and a Trek dealer on top of that, you are probably in the search of different lines, a different way, or just out in general, either selling to them or closing our doors. Reason being, the cycling industry is taking a big, I would say a bad U-turn straight down to the Gutterville. Reason being, well, as an independent bike shop, they're struggling even before COVID hit, and this insurgent of brand new life to cycling was awesome. And now we're in the massive hangover, which is going to take several years to dig out of. That in itself is pretty horrible. Looking at 2023, bike companies really did a huge shift. Well, a lot of them went to direct to consumer, Specialized, Kona, following the lines of, yeah, you guessed it, Canyon. And they found profitability there. It's basically a ditch effort to ditch their dealers to bring more sales to their bottom line. Well, in looking at Trek, they've gone to consumer direct in the sense of locations. They have a whole bunch of stores aggressively attacking the market there, as within service, which really hurts the locals, independent bike shops. And in addition to, they have their used market Red Barn thing, which I don't think is all that great. It's kind of like a soft rollout, if you would ask me. The prices are way too high. They're really kind of competing against the Pro's Closet, and they're really not, they did launch it and then went, anyway. Looking at the corporations in that aspect, they have done some big shifts, basically desperate moves and undercutting prices. That goes to, your supply chain. Overbought, overpriced. Now they're cutting prices to be what they're supposed to be in 19 and earlier. And then they're actually going a bit lower than that, which is definitely hurting their dealers because the dealers paid the higher price and they're stuck with the damn product. Sorry, there's one of those situations that the bike industry, Trek, Specialized, Giant, Pond, all you guys really are hurting independent bike dealers, and they are on razor thin margins now, even worse so than before. So yeah, you talk about the pricing, you talk about the economics, you talk about all those things. 2023 just blew. Going into 2024, talking to some of the big wigs out there, people that have been in the industry, this was a big eye-opener for me. Let me tell you why. I worked for a company called Retail Toolkit, which used to be called Wheel Toolkit, which is actually owned by Will and Sprocket up in Wisconsin. They had 9 locations and they had a software program that helped manage inventory. That's how I got into software, as kind of like a success manager, inventory, I don't know, expertise person. I don't know, you can give me a title, but there's no titling gonna label me, damn it. Anywho, this particular guy, Noel, he is the son of Will and Sprocket. Their father passed away. Him and his 2 sisters run the Will and Sprocket stores in Wisconsin. Madison, I think? No, that's Trek. Happy Days. Where was Happy Days at? Happy Days. Happy Days. Anyway, Milwaukee. Got it. And they have a couple in Chicago, if they still have those. But they have 11 locations. And Noel's a smart guy. I mean, he's the one that came up with the program, implemented it, and all these other people. He's also part of what they call the P2 group in cycling. And the P2 group is actually comprised of these big hitter, multi-location owners, which Lee Cyclery is the company I worked for, Archie Solsky. He was the one as part of that and that implemented this program, which I got into it, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward today, I saw an article of Noel saying something about divulging his numbers for 2023. And he's looking at a shortcoming of sales, obviously they were down, and also margin, something like 16%. Decrease in sales and 23 or something percent of decrease in margin. Well, that's a double hit. That's like basically a 1-2 punch and you're waiting for the third one to knock you out. And he is basically saying it's going to be more of the same for 2024. I give this guy quite a bit of weight. He's known in the industry. He knows the ins and outs, intricacy. He talks to all these individuals across the nation. He's also a very big advocate. Has gone to DC and advocate for cycling and so forth. This guy's been in the mix. And when he's divulging his numbers and saying 2024 is going to be about the same, it's probably going to be about the same. Granted, hopefully there's some silver linings to this craziness, but right now it's really hard to see a lot of it. Because 2024, when you say more of the same, Trek is still going to be very aggressively opening up stores and undercutting a lot of people's service labor dollars, taking away from the local bike shops. Because 24-hour service, that's kind of a good dangling carrot. But quite honestly, I'll get to that in a second. And second, they have a suspension service that they take the bike apart, send your shocks to their own locations, 7 of them across the nation, to be serviced and put back together and sent back to the shop. You got the 24-hour service, and also a demo bike to borrow if you're doing the shock service, that kind of thing. So they really went aggressive with the service department. Good for them. They saw in the tea leaves that they're going to need to do something to pump the dollars getting into their stores. Well, was that done? Is done it in for the rest of the dealers that are independent or the other Trek dealers in the market, because they're trying to do the 24-hour service, but it's not going to work as good because they don't have the dollars to support the staff. That's what it comes down to. So the independent bike dealers taking to the shorts, basically because this aggressive mood. As a customer, you can go, yeah, I can get my bike back in a day. Awesome. Pardon the interruption, there is more. More you say? Push the more button. Push it. Push it. I dare you to push it. Once you push that button, you get more details about the video you are watching, in addition to all the tools that I use in the shop, as well as suggestion for improving your ride. In addition to help me provide advocacy in the cycling community, also links to other social media accounts as well as my website to find the products I actually sell and other insights in the industry. Other videos linked below. Extend your cycling experience here on YouTube. And now back to your original programming. Buyer beware. Absolutely beware. Reason being, I've been in shops, I've worked in shops, and I've managed shops and service departments when you try to do those 24 to 40 hour service turnaround. You basically get junk tune-ups. I'm just going to say it. They just go through them as fast as they can. The service writers try to take as much money from you as possible from new tires, new chains, new this, that, other. If it's something that's older, they're going to like, oh, you don't want this. They're going to try to pawn off you to buy a newer bike or use that as an excuse that we're not going to do your 24-hour service because it's too old. Yeah, it does happen, and it's starting to happen to independent bike shops too, with that kind of elitism type perspective. That's all going to change. Good news, whoever survives is going to be basically giving customer service, and which I've seen recently, customer friendliness. What is customer friendliness? It's basically you treating customers like family, like we used to back in the 90s, because every customer counts. And independent bike dealers are going to have to do that to get even closely to compete with these big box chain stores now, Trek and Specialized. Yeah, you've gotten into the realm of big box. You hit more than 100 stores nationwide. Sorry, not sorry. But going back to 2023, some highlights. E-bike sales, they're still pretty strong. Newer innovations coming out, like new tech they're rolling out for a ditch expert to try to bolster sales, that kind of thing. The cycle communities are there and actually are getting bigger and sustaining because of COVID. That's pushed a lot of people into this new realm of cycling. Hey, welcome, and please stay because we really need you for sure. But the lows, were the supply chain, too much stuff, price gouging, everybody's racing to the bottom. You got all those different things. And, you got the global issues like wars overseas, Ukraine, Israel, all those things are really affecting, I would say, everything within the cycling or any outdoor sporting type goods. I mean, it's just rough. So looking at 2024, more of the same. Aggressiveness for the big brands. The bike shops, okay, this is really where it comes down to brass taxes. I mean, it's just one of those things that listening to a couple of the shops in the YouTube realm, they've actually divulged some of their numbers, and it's not pretty. When you're looking at, they had really good success in 2020 and 2021, but 2022 and 2023, their margins on bikes have dropped down towards 16%. Okay, think about 16% on a bike. Okay, they're upfronting the majority of this costs. And they also have to pay for shipping to get to their stores. If they're not big enough to do the free shipping, if after 25, 40, or 50, that's even if it's a thing now anymore, of getting free freight. Because that's what we would shoot for back in the day, you're like, okay, I got to bump my numbers up to enough to get free freight. So you basically get force-fed to eat more bikes. Well, they buy these bikes, and then all of a sudden they're heavily discounted by the brand that they're selling, and they're also selling direct on some of those brands, and then you're just like double dinger. And you're talking about 16%. That's even on 16% on a $5,000 bike is not enough to pay the employee to unbox it, to ship it to your store, to pay for the insurance, the lights and overhead, and the salesperson to sell it. Then you have a follow-up service on top of that. That 16% is still in the red. You're negative. You're not making any money. And I sold a $4,000 bike, 16% margin. You might as well not have bought that bike in the first place because it's just that way. And I know a lot of people out there, a lot of negativity, like, well, good for them to go under and that kind of thing. Well, I'm sorry. I'm from a mom and pop shop and been in this industry for over 30 years. And I still feel there's still shops out there clawing and doing all the right things. And this is something that you need to kind of see in perspective when you walk into those independent bike dealers and you look at the sales prices and you're thinking to yourself, ooh, they can go lower. They can't. What you're actually paying into is for the experience. Do you have that favorite restaurant you go to, and regardless of the price, you just like going there because the service level is just, they know you by name and the food is awesome and that kind of thing? That's what you're looking for your bike shop for yourself. So one thing you can count on, an economy is probably going to increase to get a little bit better. Supply chain issues are going to be resolved. The product is kind of flattened out. Yes, as a consumer, this is a great time to buy because prices are so low and they're racing to the bottom. But on the flip side of it, most of these bike shops and Trek and Specialized are going to come underneath this. And unfortunately, there's going to be a lot less bike shops around, being eaten up by either Trek purchasing them or putting them down, putting them out. They're competitive. They're very aggressive. Even though they're not being aggressive, they're passive aggressive. So when you're looking at the 2024 with the increases of, even if they're subtly moving that direction, still going to be really hard for a lot of these bike shops. Let's take me as a sample. You're looking at me doing inventory. Yeah. Well, that's why it's such a mess. Apologize, but that's what I got to do. What I got to do. Anywho, for me, on a smaller scale, yeah, I'm probably a year to 2 years out of, if I have a decent year or two, I'll dig out of the hole that I'm in. That's pretty significant because I'm pretty micro. When you 10 times, 100 times fold that, when you have a building, employees, and all that other stuff, it's going to take them, if they're willing to take on the challenge, it's going to take them to 3 to 5 years of decent business to even recover from what's happened in the last 2 years. That's pretty rough. Think about that for a second. So yeah, let's look back. We got 23, sucky year. 24, could be sucky. What's Trek doing about this? Not doing anything for the independent bike dealers, I can guarantee you that. Even whatever their smoke and mirrors are trying to do for the last, I guess, 2 decades now to the actual dealers, they're in it for themselves because they're got to be hurting as just as much as everybody else. Yeah, they may have had a little bit more money going into this, but eventually money disappears when you keep on having negative numbers. And I've walked into a lot of stores lately. It's crickets. Nothing's moving out the door. Nothing close to sustaining the overhead and paying for the lights and everything else, not as well as the product that's supposed to be paid for coming in from overseas. So when you're looking at the effect of Trek over the years, we can go back in time. Trek started in the late 70s, I think 76 or 77, somewhere around there. Out of a barn, building some custom steel frames. I just got one of those, saw in the picture. Yeah, kind of cool, you know. It came from a small town in America. It's, I feel like Bruce Springsteen at this moment. Just want to bust out in song, but not really, because I just want to end up crying because it'll turn out to be a country song. Anywho, they turned into a bigger company and started selling and competing against Schwinn. And then they had a major competitor, Specialized, grew. And then through the 90s, they had independent bike dealers, and they bought a whole bunch of brands like Le Mans, Klein, Bontrager, and them. Got really big. And then in the early 2000s, this is really a fast-forward story, they made their independent bike dealers either be Trek or Specialized, forced that carrot down their throat. So from the branding of bike shops turned into the shop brand of Trek or Specialized. Can you see where I'm going here? Now, since they're buying shops and going customer direct, the main two that are left is Schwinn, is owned by Pon and Walmart's now. So forget them. But Trek and Specialized, no longer with the brands that the independent bike dealers have built up over the years, are now taking a big old dump on the independent bike dealers that they have today. And whoever's still left. Reason being is they're in it for themselves. And what's happening to the independent bike dealers is they have to compete. Instead of being Trek, like you've seen some of the stickers on there, they're Trek, like Trek San Diego, which they're also bought by Trek now, but they're no longer Trek San Diego. But if you were a store that just had Trek on the front, now you got to figure out what the hell to do. Because you now got to re-break out and go back to your niche that was in the 90s. Guess what? That niche is no longer there. It's transformed to something else. You got the internet, and that destroyed the world. No, I'm just not a naysayer on that, but it's actually changed the landscape of everything. So look at me, fast forward 20 years later, 30 years later. I got a garage shop. I don't dare get a building or overhead. That's insane talk to me. I'm staying small. I'm doing my repairs. I'm refurbishing bikes. Those are my successes, those kinds of things. Bringing the warm hug, trying to be educational, bring videos like this to the YouTube world, as well as, kind of like my niche is this old bike kind of deal that a lot of you guys really enjoy watching. So those particular bike shops are going to have to find their niche in their markets. Again, because it can't be cookie cutter Kool-Aid drinkers. Just not going to happen. So what they have to do is find their niche again. That's hard to build. Basically, they've gone back 10 steps, and basically they probably better off just closing the doors and opening a new shop somewhere else, because you basically are at ground zero, starting off again at the beginning. So yeah, Trek has really done it to us, to the bike industry. Yeah, they may have some cool products and so forth, but they have not really done any favors to independent bike dealers. Specialized is following suit. They have some good brands, strong, strong product, and some, cool, fancy, flashy stuff that's coming out. And talking locally here, there's a couple specialized stores, or corporate, 3 of them. Then there's a couple of stores that carry Specialized. I talked to them, and they're beating them by customer service, but they're definitely not going to beat them by having the mix of product available. Because those newer products and heavier product volumes are going to go straight to the corporate stores, not to the independent bike dealers. I can tell you that. Even though they may say it doesn't, it does. Definitely been proven over COVID. So when you're looking at that particular scenario, they may carry some Specialized because it's such a strong name they just dare not to, or they haven't built up their niche enough to branch away from that particular brands. I hope other brands that are smaller get into the limelight, like custom built frames and things like that. Unfortunately, they'll still have a really, really, really high price tag to them. So I really encourage a lot of the local bike shops, if they're competing against Trek, if they're competing against Specialized stores, or competing against Pond, look in the used market. It sounds scary, or like, oh, it's a waste of time and so forth, but I tell you what, that one dealer is dealing with 16% margin on their bikes, right? If you brought in some bikes that are your same brands that you carry on the floor, look on Facebook, just while you're right before you go to bed or first thing in the morning, check out Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist and just see what's in your local market isn't used. You might be delightfully surprised that there's a few of those older 5 or 10-year-old bikes that your crew can work and fix up and make like new pretty easily for a fraction of the price, under $1,000. You can buy those, fix them up, and even though I had a crappier year last year, I maintained over a 30% margin. Okay, so if I can do that in a small outfit like this, bike shops that have more people to throw at this problem and scenario, you send your guy in the van, go grab a couple bikes, bring them in. It doesn't have to be a lot. You just need to have that entry-level used bike lined up with your new bikes and going, oh, we got those used medium full suspension brand, whatever, you put your name on it, and it's half the price of the new one, low end, and this is a great way to start. You know what? As a consumer, I'm going to be more than tickled pink to go buy a bike that's half the price of a new one with twice the better componentry on it. I don't care if it's 3 or 4 or 5 years older. That's where the Pros Closet has really made their big win, but the Pros Closet kept on going up. They didn't go any lower anymore. It's fine with me because that doesn't tread on me at all. I fit right underneath and I'm having a huge success. That is one of many things that a local bike shop can do. Give the customer friendliness back, treat them like family, and you're going to oversell, over-compete, you just overvive any of the corporate stores. We've been competing against them for years. REI, Dick's Sporting Goods, Shields, they're there. They've already been there. Trek and Specialized is just another name, more locations, and unfortunately, they're the brands that we've been used to hearing all the time. Well, how about some newer, unknown brands, or brands that actually support the dealers, or more custom, Black Sheep, Titanium, Unicorn Cycle, Titanium. I think James is still pretty decent with their dealers. There's still a couple of bike brands. And quite honestly, as a consumer or customer, you got to stop drinking the Kool-Aids of the big brands and actually go for the actual experience with the shop that you really like. Because it is like that restaurant scenario. You want them to stick around to help you out. Because sometimes you have a little thing going on with your bike and you rolled in to take care of you and you're out the door. the big boxes are going to go, well, you need a tune-up, you need this, that, and other, and rather else, and it's going to cost you a whole bunch more. So we're talking about community piece. Yeah, Trek wasn't really helpful. Specialized not either. But the thing is, they're not going to change. But your local bike shops that surround them, or hopefully if they're still around, are going to change. And if they're been kind of, I don't know, a little arrogant before, I'm sure they're going to be changing their tune quite quickly because they don't have the time or the money to lose on that. And everything is stacked up against them. So sorry to be a doom and gloomy on this in a sense, but you know what the future for Trek is? They're going to keep on doing more stores. That's just how it is. And Specialized is going to follow suit if they're smart enough. And that's just going to be. And with all that being said, you still have a couple shops out there in your neck of the woods. They may aim down to a small size like a garage, like me, but they're still out there. And they're going to be more than happy to take care of you and help you out. So you got that as the silver lining. And the other thing is, when the market starts getting better, guess who's going to actually see those improvements first? Smaller guys like me, because we have the lower prices and we have the better customer service. And when people start coming out of woodwork, they're like, oh, I really need to get this done or that worked on, and I'm looking for a new whatever, I'm the first one they're going to see on the SEO searches on their internet, because I'm going to have that price point under $1,000 for them to get into riding, not your Trek or Specialized or any of them, because you know their bikes are way outrageously priced. Yes, they're going to come down, but is the quality even remotely close? Possibly not. So anyway, the market of the used is definitely gone down in price to help bike shops, or even yourself. If you want to buy a used bike and send it into your local bike shop to be worked on, you're still going to probably keep it under $1,000 for a decent bike. Heck, that's great. If you can really get into it, then you can save your pennies and go, oh, okay, I'm going to invest more into this, and then spend that $2,000 to $3,000. And still could be used. It still doesn't have to be in that new shiny $4,000, $5,000. And quite honestly, the percentage of people buying those $5,000 to $10,000 bikes have to be pretty small. And in addition to, the prices have been so lowballed in the last 2 years, those individuals bought, and I don't think they're going to be buying a new bike anytime soon. So, sorry, Trek, your high price point bikes are going to suffer. Same with you, Specialized. Pun. So, yeah, here we are. But anyway, on to the next, and got to count my stuff and some other stuff. And once I get that all counted, and right back into tearing things apart and making things right, one bike at a time, right? Anywho, thank you for spending time with me in the garage. Hope you have a wonderful day. If it's nice in your neck of the woods, go out for a bike ride. It's definitely worth it. Definitely. Have a great day in the garage. Welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with a guy. No, that's not right. Welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycles. This is As the Wheel Turns.